Hello, today I am going to be talking about my lesson called How Many Ducklings? It is about counting objects using one-on-one correspondence. And the grade level is kindergarten, and the time is 25 to 30 minutes long. The standard focuses on applying one-to-one correspondence to count objects. Students are also going to demonstrate that the last number they said tells the total and that they represent counting with written numerals. Hopefully by the end of this lesson, the students will be able to count accurately using one-on-one correspondence, choose a strategy to keep track of their counting, write the total number of objects counted, and explain how they got their answer. So the materials for my lesson is going to be the duckling image printout, which I have right here on the side of the screen, whiteboards and markers, highlighters, crayons, and pencils, transparent counters, a smartboard or a document camera, and then the final duckling counting video. So I'm going to go through these steps of my lesson very briefly. So step 1 is understanding the problem. The students will look at the duckling picture, and I will make sure to clarify that we are only counting the ducklings. Since you can briefly see in this picture here, there is one mother duck. Step 2, we're going to be talking about estimating. So I'm going to talk to the students about what an estimate is and basically just explain that it's kind of like their best guess. So I'm going to have them make a low, high, and then a best guess of the exact answer of how many ducklings they are. And I'll do this by having them have their whiteboards, and then I'll ask them, okay, what do you think the lowest number of ducklings are? And then they'll write the number on their board and they'll be like 3. And then I'll have them erase that, and then I'll have them do the highest number, which would be, something like in the billions or something. And then I would have them guess how the total amount of the actual ducklings are, like what their guess is. So they would write on their board like 52 or something like that. So step 3 is I would be teaching them the counting strategies. I would show them the ways to count, which is circle groups, touch count, sets, color coding, and students can choose one. I'll show them how to do each one briefly, then I'll allow the students to choose the method that works best for them. And then step 4, we'll be starting to count independently. So the students will be trying to count the ducklings on their own picture using their chosen strategy. So I'm allowing them to use things like crayons, markers, or pencils so they can circle each duck or highlight each duck. And then I'll also have some resources out like colored clear counters so they could place the counters on each duck as they go along. And then step 5, we are all going to check the answer together. So there is a video of all the ducklings really zoomed in, and you can pause and play it and make it really slow. So I would be doing this on my smartboard with them and pausing the video and showing different ways that you could have counted the ducks throughout the process. And throughout the whole process of them counting independently, I would walk around and, if there were some students that needed some extra help, I would give them, more of a one-on-one example. So then to close up the entire assignment, I will have students turn and talk to a partner about how they kept track of the ducklings and which strategy helped them the most. For the assessment, I would have their final picture of their ducklings with the written final number of the amount that they got from their strategy. And then I'll also make sure to keep a checklist of like which students got the correct numeral and the use of their strategy, and then I'll make sure to ask each student what they did just to know that I understand like their reasoning. And if there was time, I would want to add an exit ticket where the students would draw different objects and then count them with the same strategy they used for the ducks, and then see if they can use that independently as well. And then finally, I have some differentiation here. So ELL students, I would have visual vocabulary cards like duckling with a picture of a duckling and then the caption being duckling. And then mother duck, group, count, counters. And then I would model the counting with gestures at the beginning of the class. And then I would also allow them to sit with a partner. And then IEP students, I would provide simplified images with fewer ducklings, probably more spread apart. And then I would also make sure to push the physical counters, since that seems to be like a really good strategy. And then I would, of course, add some extra time for them as well and want more one-on-one support. So some advanced learners, I would want to challenge them to create their own grouping strategy. So instead of just using the 4 that I used all with the class, then I would have them maybe try to do something that they came up with that I didn't show. And then students with sensory needs, I would make sure to provide the highlighters and then more of the colored counters to support that one-on-one correspondence. All right, that is my full lesson of how many ducklings. I hope you enjoyed listening to my lesson, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.